Welcome back. Trinidad and Tobago. Well, alarmed by reports of the country's first dengue death late last month, southern communities are now overwhelmed by a surge in the mosquito population in their communities, and they are appealing to the insect vector control to spray their areas. Joining us now via Zoom is Chairman of the Penal Debe Regional Corporation, Gowtam Maharaj, who has promised to spray, is it 1,000 homes each day for this week? Mr. Maharaj, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning once again. And yes, that is our target, 1,000 homes per day to do the dynafogging. And in fact, just on Friday, we have surpassed that. We were doing 1,100 plus. It is important to note, though, that that is not the only mechanism that is required for the control of the mosquito population. And that is why we call upon the IVCD to be able to step in and do what is necessary to complement that dynafogging that we are doing. Because technically, the dynafogging is a mist that takes care of the adult mosquito, the Aedes aegypti mosquito. There are three types of mosquito: the Anopheles, the Culex in Trinidad, and the as I said, the Aedes aegypti, which we are targeting, which will be prevalent near the homes and in built-up areas. The mist, the dynafogging mist, only does knockdown control, which is when it comes in contact with the adult mosquito. And also it is now, one must understand, the environmental conditions play a role in the success of the dynafogging, in that if there's high winds, if there's rainy conditions, it will reduce its severity and its efficacy. It has always been the program that the IVCD, in fact, I must say this, legislatively, the IVCD has been there long before regional corporations. Maybe from the 1940s, the Public Health Ordinance came into effect somewhere in the early 1950s, possibly 1953, if I can correct. And the IVCD is a properly constructed division, insect vector control division, that reports to the Ministry of Health, top level of the Ministry of Health, and it is staffed with PHI 2s and 3s, meaning that these are specialized areas. Insect vector control is a specialized area of study that PHI 2 and 3 at that level staff the IVCD. So it is very important to understand that it is not the IVCD that should be complementing the work of the regional corporation. It is the regional corporation that evolved and stepped in afterwards to be able to fill the gap, per se, of the IVCD. And technically, that's just by structure, technically, the work done by the IVCD should include analysis and early detection, look at catchment areas and so on, where there's the habitat for the eggs, which will move into the larvae and pupae and stages. And there are different treatment, separate and apart from dynafogging. And it's important to understand that. And if one will recall, before, there were persons who used to pass and drop in the granules, the granules.
Yes, and house to house, correct. And they would inspect your homes to ensure you're not collecting water and providing breeding grounds for mosquitoes, yes.
That's right. So it's a complete program. It's not just the guys that we have out there with the dynafogging. We are doing our best per se as regional corporation.
So, Mr. Maharaj, before you go further, let me get this clear, because I was always under the impression that those persons who went house to house were part of local government. Are they? You're saying that they're part of insect vector control?
Yes, primarily the insect vector control unit is constructed for that. That is why it is called insect vector control. Regional corporations came in, and yes, we can venture into, which we are discussing right now, to venture into obtaining maybe some of the granules or some of the, sometimes you hear of the mineral oils and the kerosene and so on. But an important aspect to be guided by is the fact that there must be data, and it must be guided by the science. And that particular specialty and competency resides in the IVCD. So that is the importance of it.
So they should be, essentially, they should be directing you all and telling you all what to do.
Exactly, and in fact, in any integrated insect vector management program that you can look at worldwide, collaboration is an integral step in it amongst public agencies. And we have actually written a letter to the CMO requesting data, requesting this type of collaboration we should be working hand in hand. And I explain why. Because there's a detriment that can come after. Whilst we're looking at two sides of it's two sides of the coins. One, there's the human suffering reduction, and two, there's environmental protection, which we must pay heed to also. So it is not a case of spray as much as you can, use as much chemical as you can, or anything at all, because people are now, I must say this, are taking into their own hands spraying. We have seen in the Ramai Trace, people have taken up Miss Floors on Saturday and spraying. We have seen people are buying kerosene, people are buying diesel to create that film that they would have seen to try to replicate what they have seen years before, where the mineral oil film would stymie the growth of the eggs, in terms of the larva popping out of the eggs and continuing the cycle. But it is most important that the specialist area, the IVCD of the Ministry of Health, step in, begin this collaboration. And there are other aspects of a good integrated insect vector management control program. There's the education and advocacy and environmental conditions and so on, which we can get into. But first and foremost, it is important to understand that IVCD at the vision is the lead, and it's supposed to be, because that's where the competency resides.
So, Mr. Maharaj, let me get this clear. As far as the regional corporation is concerned, so far you all do just the fogging. You all are looking into procuring the granules, as you say, to go house to house. But legally, are local government officials allowed to enter homes, or must you seek permission? How does that work?
We do the we are guided by the Municipal Corporation Act, and our chief principal officer, which is the public health principal officer, has a relationship through our public health meeting, which affords them the opportunity to operate from the public health ordinance. Again, that collaboration in terms of meetings and the attendance by the right authority, the right level, has to be taking place for all of that to be working well, and then that very same authority which is afforded to through that part of the law to enter premises and to treat inside homes and all of that will be very clear. And I explain why, because there's clearly a relationship, because what you do in terms of the chemical, its severity, its composition and all of that, its residual effect, whether or not you are using the right chemicals. Like, for instance, we use the word granules here. That is referring loosely to Abbott granules. There's also Peretrom. There's other chemicals on the market that one can use. But that latest update, that latest guidance as to what should be used and in what quantities and so on really should come from that specialist group. So I am explaining, it's really a multi-part scenario.
So one of the reasons I asked that is because we know the range of the Aedes aegypti is between 150 to 200 yards, and you may be keeping within your household and your premises clean and free from mosquitoes, but your neighbor next door could be doing quite the opposite. So that's why I asked about regional corporations and their power to enter premises and inspect and so on.
Yes, and it is contained in that relationship. Whilst we are governed by the Municipal Corporation Act, the relationship is between the Principal Health Officer and the collaboration through our Public Health Committee meeting, which again, I'm stating requires that public health meeting, let me clarify, is at the corporation level. But it requires, therefore, then the persons at the requisite level, the PHI 2 and above, with the insect vector control competency to be coming into those meetings, and then it will be effective. And then through that mechanism, through that conduit, yes, we will be able to work in tandem and execute in-house and in-premises treatment with the guidance of from the chemicals and all of that. That is required to be happening. That collaboration is required to be happening.
Now, Mr. Maharaj,
for it to be effective then in that.
You all are on the ground, regional corporation councillors are on the ground. As it relates to cases, how would you say that there's an increase, there's a surge of cases? I know you did mention there have been one confirmed and 2 suspected deaths within your corporation. Could you just elaborate a bit on that? I know you won't want to reveal the identities of those persons, but if you could just share a little bit with us, when they were believed to have contracted dengue, how long it took, were they hospitalized, the level of care afforded to them, and so on.
Sure. I can maybe start by explaining two terms: endemic and outbreak. Endemic is what is the normal expected population of a particular vector, or the normal quantum of disease that is expected, that has been targeted before and well understood. We are unsure in this case, technically, from the data provided, from any data at all which has not been provided, but from our observations, the fact is we are of the opinion, I am of the opinion, that we are beyond endemic. We are beyond the normal. There's mosquitoes everywhere. Wherever you sit, wherever you stand, you're fending off swarms of mosquitoes. And it is understandable. It is the rainy season, and we have not achieved proper infrastructural works along lines of removing all water. The Aedes aegypti mosquito would have its habitat as stagnated water. And it is important to note that our DP program, our development project program, which incorporates bridges, culverts, and drainage, which is $21 million in allocation from the national budget right at the beginning of the fiscal year, has not been released. So we have had $0. That is $0 released. The Pinal-Abe Regional Corporation has not had any monies released under our development projects. So I'm creating that association in terms of why we are where we are. It is the beginning of the rainy season. It is the 10th month in the financial year, nearing close, and you would have had not a single dollar investment in water removal infrastructural mechanisms, that is drains, bridges, and culverts. So it is telling you something. So yes, I believe we are beyond, from a layman observation standpoint, we are beyond the endemic threshold. We may already be in outbreak. It has to be verified. The data will be required to be provided by the Ministry of Health, IVCD department, which is, again, staff to be able to do that data collection, the surveillance mechanism from all of the private practitioners, from the regional health authorities, to be able to say that these are the cases. But yes, certainly I can also say that certainly I am of the belief, I am placing it out in the public domain, that it is way beyond the last figure I heard, which I believe was just above 100 in terms of a nationwide figure. In Pinal-Abe, we are within swarms of mosquito, and I believe it is way beyond that figure.
And the number of cases so far that have come to your attention, and the deaths?
On the deaths, I am certain of one in the Rochard Road area, and I heard of another which I mentioned in the Queenham area. Again, cannot be verified, so I say it cautiously because it is from what we would have heard. Because our councillors are very close and familiar with on the ground, they have picked up a lot of information, and it is what is also guiding us. Our council guides the schedule. We are guided by the public. We have an aggressive schedule. I have shared it. It takes us to August 2nd. That is with the target of the 1,000 households per day, and we are also trying our best in terms of the other factors that will help. For example, we are already making our call. We are in a deficit in the garbage collection, which is called other contracted services. We are in a deficit by $1 million. So we are making that call for a release of that of $1 million to take us to end of financial year. In the area of materials and supplies, in the public health vote at the regional corporation, we are short by 137,000 in our release versus allocation. So we are making a call for that, because that will allow us to buy further chemicals, chemicals for dynafogging. And if at all we are able to venture into other areas, we are definitely willing to, in the interest of the public, so long as that guidance and that collaboration begins with the Ministry of Health.
So, Mr. Maharaj, according to the Express, amid dengue fears, Central South overwhelmed by millions of insects. Why do you suspect Central and South more so than, let's say, North, Northeast, Northwest?
Well, speaking specifically for the Pinal-Abe Regional Corporation, we sit in the South Oroputra Basin. 60% of region is in the South Oroputra River Basin. That's one aspect of it. And there has been some unique phenomena in the woodland area, such as salt intrusion and so on. That type of brackish water breeding ground is really more suited for not the Aedes aegypti. So I would have no confirmation that there may be other types of mosquitoes, but it's worthy of mention that there's some phenomenon happening in the woodland area. But really and truly, we sit in the South Oroput River Basin. Our areas, Pinal Bay is known, in fact, for flooding, extreme flooding. So it is an area that has a lot of streams, rivers, water channels, and so on. Main water channels and rivers are owned by the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Agriculture. So it is also a time to refresh my call that there should be increased works by both those ministries for the assets that they own. We have been working collaboratively at the regional level. We have set up through our regional coordinating meeting arrangements where we can support each other. So the regional corporation has been sending out all of its equipment and have cleaned some of the channels owned by the Ministry of Works, Ministry of Agriculture at our level. We have just last week cleaned the Gowtam River in the Debe area. We have cleaned the Mitchell Channel in Barrackpore. We have cleaned the Chowdhury Channel in Ramdar Trace collaboratively. So we are really doing our best in that regard. But it must be said still that water channel cleaning by the asset owners needs to take place. As you asked the reasons for. The second reason obviously will be, as I mentioned before, if we have not invested in our infrastructural works, there are sunken culverts in the Rock Road area, the Mohammed Trace area. There's an engineering issue where the outfall is actually higher than the flow. So that it means there's engineering requirements there. It would point to that $21 million allocation that the budget has read that should be given to us, and therefore we are asking for it because it will tackle those areas. The QP River in the Rock Road area, again, near the Oberi Singh Hindu School, and I must take the opportunity to say congratulations to that school for having a top SCA student. That area there has stagnant water whenever it floods. It means that these engineering solutions, which the regional corporation on its own cannot handle, requires that DP type funding. And in fact, even the recurrent funding of the regional corporation has been very low and not met the allocated figure by the budget. So it is a collaborative effort. These efforts together with sanitation efforts, which I mentioned, the garbage collection vote requires a 1 million by end of this month. Will be out of money in that vote. Will together bring that. And again, I want to touch on the technical aspects of it. Early detection, understanding where the habitat is. It is not just all spraying or all treatment everywhere, because I explained also that consideration needs to be taken as to the overspraying, over chemical usage. So that aspect that deals with persons going around and doing that detection, doing that sampling, you would have seen people sampling the water in times gone by, and they would tell you what is the concentration of the mosquito population in which areas. That will help us a lot in terms of understanding how and why the population is high, and also how and what we can use to control the population.
Well, Mr. Maharaj, just to point out as well that climate change is being suspected for a lot more mosquitoes. You know, I've been reading that warmer temperatures associated with climate change accelerate mosquito development, biting rates, the incubation of the disease. And I'll also point out, just for the education of our public, in April of this year, in Guyana, Berbice to be precise, a 10-year-old boy, Vishnu Mohabir, and his 9-year-old sister, Ariana Mohabir, they both died from dengue. And I'm pointing this out to allow you the opportunity to speak to your burgesses about, I mean, you've told us what you are doing, but what can they do on their end to prevent, you know, a disaster, a tragedy like this happening in Trinidad and Tobago?
Definitely. First, I must agree that yes, I am aware of the fact that there has been a proclamation in the national sphere of, I believe it was from PAHO, in terms of the increase in proliferation of mosquito population, which even gives more reason to the point that I have raised to be proactive in dealing with it. Yes, I believe that the population has a role. There should definitely be already an increased education and advocacy drive, and we are doing our best. We are using our litter wardens. We are using our miking mechanisms to be able to reach out. We are using our social media. The ministry has issued one pamphlet I have seen recently. I am advocating that there should be more meat in those pamphlets issued. For example, we spoke of one that I'm aware of, hemorrhagic condition and hemorrhagic medical phenomenon may not be known. A lot of our elders are on aspirin, and if you have contracted dengue, it means that you should cease all of that, and persons may think I have a slight fever, and they may continue on their normal treatment. But since dengue requires, again, specialized medication in terms of removing some of what you may be using, I therefore make a call for increased education, again, from the competent bodies. And we as the regional corporation definitely will disseminate and do the mobilization and the dissemination that is required to ensure every one of our residents and burgesses are aware. On our own, yes, we are currently doing that type of public relation, that type of, as I said before, our councillors are very close, very familiar with all of our residents, so they are a natural conduit and a natural communication mechanisms. All of our offices have opening days that the public can walk into in the event that they have any questions, but we are doing a sort of push forward communication where we are reaching out through our miking and through our social media, and definitely, as I said, face-to-face through our councillor network.
Mr. Maharaj, we're just about to wrap, but I'll give you the opportunity. You did tell us 1,000 homes each day, maybe more this week. We did put up the flyer a short while ago. What do they need to know? Do your residents need to open their doors and windows as had been done in the past to allow the fog to pass through? What do they need to know?
Oh, yeah, very good question. I must say that was only one of the schedule I shared. So there are two schedules, the morning schedule and the evening schedule, but all will be shared. We have a mic that goes up front, and I say mic, for those who may be listening, miking is still a very potent means of communication in these areas. They go up front and they tell you to open your windows if they are elderly, if they are fishes, if you have pets and so on, how to take care of them. So we do have an education thrust in terms of that miking that goes prior to the spraying. So persons are well edified in terms of the precautions and what they should do. And definitely it involves for opening of doors and windows, and persons who are ailing or persons, the elderly, is to be removed from the area that will be directly sprayed. And yes, we are achieving 1,000 and we hope to increase.
Of course, Gowtam Maharaj, Chairman of the Penal Debay Regional Corporation, let me thank you so much for joining us this morning as our first guest. Thank you so much for your efforts, and we really do hope that this brings some level of calm and resolve to the constituency, burgesses of your regional corporation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to have this communication with the public through your media.
All the best to you. Well, it's now time for a quick break.